Welcome to the Financial Beast Podcast, the practice owner's guide to maximize practice value and create personal financial success. Your host, Eric Miller, is the co-owner and chief advisor at Econologics Financial Advisors. He is also a national speaker and published author in financial matters focused on practice owners at every phase of ownership.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Financial Beast Podcast. I am Eric Miller with my
co-host,
special
guest.
I don't like the
I know you don't want to.
I
know you don't
want
to.
The co-host is my Mendy
Heinz.
Yes. So, as you can imagine, this podcast is dedicated towards practice owners, and we really show you not only how to harness the dynamics of your practice, but to make sure that it is benefiting your household financially. So we talk about all topics that are related to those two really key things. And today we're going to talk about, I think, a topic that it's come up quite a bit, habits.
Habits.
And, when you deal with as many owners as we do, you definitely are able to start seeing patterns and habits that really separate out the ones that are doing a good job from the ones that are struggling. So it's interesting to us as we were putting together this list today, like what are some bad habits? And then you have to have the good habits.
Yeah.
Because you can't have one without the other.
That's right.
Because then how do you know whether or not you're doing the right thing?
Yeah.
So we made a list today of what are some of the bad habits that practice owners get into. And I think we should really dig into that.
Before we get into that, though, I kind of want to bring up that you and I shared an experience with a book that neither one of us knew the other one was reading,
right,
about habits, called Atomic Habits. And it's a great book. If you haven't read it yet, pick it up. It's great. I listened to the book. I don't know, do you read it or you listen?
I read that one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
But what I think was really enlightening, at least for me, is that habits aren't just about the desire to do one thing, to change something in your life or to start something new. It's about all the things that lead up to that are also habits to change. And so I think that's kind of what, as we go through this list, for those of you listening, think with all right, if this is something that you're doing that you want to stop doing, then what habits are actually leading up to this bad habit? And then the good habits that you want to start, what do you need to change in order to now adopt this new habit that would lead up to the activity of this, this new idea? Yeah. So I think that was the big thing I got out of Atomic Habits. I mean, there's a lot of processes in that, but
it's a big one.
That book and Changing Habits was true for me and changed my life. So
it's true.
I think it's just important to kind of think with that. It's not about discipline necessarily just on one thing. It's about a multitude of things leading up to and thereafter.
It's for sure. And look, if you guys are going to want to get into a financial condition that, we talk about a lot, that really is separate from what most people are experiencing.
The financial beast.
Yeah, you're not going to do it on the habits and routines that you have right now.
That's right.
Especially if
you'd already have it, right?
Or you'd be getting close to it, or you'd
right.
see some pretty significant jumps. So, I think these things have to be looked at. It's good to get habits in. It's good to make sure that and it does take some time to get these things established. Yeah. But, you should start seeing some results. You should certainly feel better. But, you have to get these things in because the word habit, it doesn't have enough necessity for me.
I
it's
agree.
Like, well, I have a habit
boring.
of doing this, right? It is key, but you have to put some fire behind it if you really want it to have a meaningful impact as well.
But there's a result. So, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit, there is something that happens at the end of that that has to be worth the change, right?
Yeah.
So either escape from something bad or, aspire for something good, right? And you really have to know what that is and define it so that when you've achieved that good habit or the release of a bad habit.
Yeah. And really knowing exactly what it is that you're going for. So you know what the habits would need to be, because they are really like the doing, like, what am I doing right now to get this to this result that I want? Okay.
Maybe we should define it. You want to define it really quick?
Well, what are we defining, like financial beast?
Yeah, let's just define what's the attainment? What do we know when we've arrived in financial success?
Well, okay. So I think it's you have to look across everything that you own, all of your assets, including your business. We define a financial beast. Number one is someone that has a mindset that they're in charge of their own personal economy and they don't let the outside economy dictate to where they are. That's number one.
Yeah, control.
Number two, they have a business that is growing at a certain growth rate over a 3-year period.
Yeah.
I think we have it at like 40% over a 3-year period. So if you want to be in financial beast mode, you have to see your growth rate of your business. Yeah, you got it. Oh, we're up 2% last year or 3% last year. It's just not going to cut it.
That's not beast mode.
No, that's not beast mode. I mean, you can call it something, but it's not beast mode. So 40% over a 3-year period. Another stat we have is, and we'll talk about this as far as a good habit, but is making sure that the business is paying the household a certain percentage. 7 to 10% of the gross revenue should be going to the household to create other income sources.
Yeah.
So that is, if you're doing that, you're going to accelerate the financial independence process.
Yeah. Which kind of leads to one of the other metrics that we look at, which is just having a good portion already set aside for your passive income.
Correct.
Yeah. So I mean that leads to that. It's part of the process.
They are kind of all intertwined, but making sure that you have a separation between your earned income and that income, which is maybe not as work related. You know, it is coming in a little bit more, I guess, quote unquote, passively, although someone has to do something to generate the income.
Yeah.
And then, of course, your debt is going to be paid off in 5 to 7 years. So you're on track to have your debt paid off in 5 to 7 years. Goodbye. That is going to include all of your personal debt, including your home mortgage. And that would certainly, but you can see, like, to get a habit in place of that, it's not easy, you know, but you have to start somewhere. Nope. Profit margins would be at over 20%. So that is that's part of being a financial beast.
Yeah.
Making over $400,000 a year of personal income is part of being a financial beast. Like, these are all things that are part and parcel of that.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, habit's good, but it has to be the intensity of the habit. The action needs to be enough to get me to where I want to go.
Yeah.
Like, I can have the habit of walking. Well, I'm going to have a habit where I'm going to walk around the block every single day. Okay, good. That's a good habit.
It sounds good.
But it's going to take me friggin', 30 years before I see any results of that, right? So there has to be an intensity around the habit.
You have to have how much effort do you have to actually put forth in order for that habit to give you a result? So you have to know that the result has to be significant.
Yes.
So that way, I've got to put extra effort towards this, or, really start changing behaviors and putting a timeline on it. I mean, I think that's any goal, a timeline, when you're going to achieve that goal. And like you just said, the debt goal, right? Yep. 7 to 10 years. I think that's a fair timeline for quite a few of, we'll call them beast metrics, right?
Yep.
It shouldn't take forever.
That's right.
If it's taking forever, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
That's really, at the end of the day,
there does have to be a time frame established.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like it.
All right, let's get into the bad habits. Bad habit number 1. This is a good one.
Starting with bad ones. Okay.
Yeah, these are the bad habits of practice owners that they tend to have.
Okay.
Now, this is kind of intermixed in their business and in their household, but I think it's important that we look at both. So number 1, the worst habit is turning over complete financial management to someone else in the organization without any oversight whatsoever.
How many times have we seen that go wrong?
So the number of times that we've had reports of, I don't trust anybody with money. Why? Because I got ripped off. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, what did you do? Well, I gave this person, responsibility for my money and they screwed me over. Okay. Did you have any oversight at all? Well, no, not really. Okay. Well, that was on you.
Yeah.
So I think and I get it. Look, we don't want our owners to like be doing the bookkeeping entry, and I don't want them to like have to worry about complex algorithms of accounting principles and all that. But you have to have some pulse of what your numbers are.
There's a difference between delegating and turning over control.
Yes.
Right? There's a control would have some type of a quality check or, sign off or know what you're looking at or
know what you're looking
be
at.
able to inspect.
All those things you just mentioned right there, like a quality control.
Routing system.
And oversight. Oh, how much money do we have in our bank accounts this week?
just taking a look.
Right. Let me see our expenses. I just want to see, do we have any big expenses on here? Did we have like a purchase order system that we agreed on and signed off on these things?
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
That would be able to indicate like the cash. Okay, where was it this week? Well, it's lower. All right. What are we doing about that?
Yeah.
Like there's got to be the owner has to have some oversight about what they're doing right here. And just can't say to the person, you take care of everything.
Let me know if you need anything.
Let me know when you need money.
Yeah, right.
And I'll just go dig it out of my personal account so that we can cover payroll. I mean, we've had that though.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it's understandable because it kind of happens naturally. Like they have so many things on their plate. They've got so many things to do. They're trying to delegate, but they mistaken delegation for giving up control, and then they pay the price for that. And it's a bad habit.
It's usually
super bad habit.
Yeah,
don't do that.
So definitely don't do that.
If you're doing that, start now trying to figure out how you're going to gain back control, because we guarantee the minute you start taking back control, you're going to find something you don't want.
Probably.
To see.
And it's okay. Spend some time doing that. I remember talking to an owner that just said, you know what, I sat down with my CPA and had him just go through everything. It took some time, but at least I knew what I was supposed to be looking at. So that's a good habit to do.
One.
Speaking of CPAs, so another bad habit that people have is waiting to talk to their CPAs about their tax situation at the end of the year,
October.
or worse, in April, or worse, when they defer it all the way until October, and they have zero idea of what their tax liability is going to be.
And they're shocked.
And you shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be shocked.
No. So you should have a conversation every single quarter with your bookkeeping and CPA team. Hey, here, what are our profits so far this year? And what was our potential tax liability? So I can either make sure that I already have enough set aside for that. Number two, I can adjust what we need to be bringing in to cover the tax liability. Or number three, I can make sure that I'm looking at strategies that will minimize my tax liability.
Before it's too late.
And I have to wait until the end of the year.
Yeah.
So this is a very bad habit that people get into, is that, and they say it all the time to me. It's like, well, I didn't know, and the bookkeeper's not going to know, the CPA's not going to know. I mean, you would think that they should do that. I agree that they should do that,
but we don't see that as a commonality.
Most of them don't do that, and they don't know that especially if your business is growing and becoming more profitable.
Yeah. They're not looking at it.
No, it's your responsibility to say, hey, I need to make sure you guys are staying on top of this. You can make that agreement with them up front. This is the kind of relationship that I want to have. I was just talking with another dentist and I said, look, you have to change the terms of the relationship with your accounting and bookkeeping team.
Yeah.
And it's got to be that I need updates and prediction. That's it.
Super important.
Yeah.
It's actually, you have time for this. You need to make time for this. I've heard that. Well, I didn't have time, and I tried reaching out to them and they didn't call me back. And, it's not okay. So it's a bad habit to accept that as a standard operating procedure.
And the result of that bad habit is that you end up, of course, look, the two results so far of these bad habits, number one, you don't have any control or you open yourself up to get ripped off.
Yeah.
Number two, you open yourself up to a monumental tax bill at the end of the year. Okay. So you can see the results of these bad habits aren't like light. It's not like, oh, I weighed an extra pound on the scale because I ate this. It's like, no, I mean, like these are bad things that can
It's really
happen.
bad. Yeah. And it can be prevented.
And they can
which
be
is the cool
prevented.
part. That's the best part.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 3.
Oh, no. Okay.
Another bad habit is not talking to your staff or your spouse about money. So
That is a bad habit.
Yes, it's a bad habit. I get it because I think a lot of people have been grown up to like say, don't talk about money.
Yeah. Raised to say that should be a topic that, kind of gets swept underneath the table, or literally a topic that is not up for discussion.
Yes.
Right? Because there's too many opinions.
It's off limits. Don't talk about it. So, I mean, all I can tell you is that if the staff doesn't know what the financial targets are of the organization, then it just violates every of our golden rules of income and expenses, right? Like,
it does.
Like they have to have a necessity, and that necessity just can't be on like the practice owner. It's got to be on the entire group, right? So if you don't talk about money with them, how are they going to know where the necessity is?
But Eric, you're talking about a habit that this one especially, there's things that have to happen to lead up to them being able to discuss this with their staff. Because if their staff doesn't really even understand what their targets are as a staff member, what they should be producing,
Right.
then they don't understand what the relevancy is of the gross income being wherever it is and how they can affect it, right?
For sure. And I think, again, that would be more of the team leaders and the owners really communicating to the staff. Like, say, look, I know you may not see how important you are, but if you don't, keep a cancellation rate below a certain percentage, this is how it affects the next member of your team.
Yes.
This is how it affects the next member of your team. And, people want to do a good job.
They do.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't talk to them about that and say, this is the economic reality, if we don't do this, this, and this, we're probably not going to hit this number right here. And this is what we need actually to be able to expand. Everybody's saying, we want better computers and we want to take trips, or I want, raises every single year. And it's like, well, that's great. But we have to hit these numbers so that we can justify doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like you are in charge of of that part. And you can say, look, all right, as long as we do this, then, these are the good results that are gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
I think it brings the team together, right? So individuals don't just think they're operating by themselves, just trying to do their job, clock in, clock out.
Yeah.
They come together as a team. So we've seen that be successful.
For sure. And then not talking to your spouse about money is just, I don't know.
Until there's a problem.
Or till there's a problem, yeah. And that's kind of mean to do, especially if you're in charge of the finances. And then, it really doesn't take much. Like, here's an assets and liabilities. Here's where we're at right now. Here's our cash positions. Here's how much we owe. Here are the targets that we had. Everything's good. Or this is where a problem is. I don't think it takes much.
No.
But you do need to communicate how the person can understand.
But you're kind of suggesting that one person be in charge of finances.
Well, yeah.
I thought I'd point that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's agreements in place.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that have to occur, but these are not talking to each other is just never going to lead to a good result.
No.
Blame.
No surprises.
Lots of blame that'll end up happening. And you really have to look at what you're doing when you do that, because when you create a bad effect on somebody else, you don't know what decision they're making.
It's true.
At that point.
That's true.
So you have to look at that and say, if I'm doing this to this person, I don't know what they're using to handle that.
Yeah.
And it's usually not good.
No.
So you got to take a look at that before you say something.
Yeah, that's definitely a bad habit.
Yes. Okay, last one is on the bad habits, are looking for unusual solutions to solve cash flow problems.
This is a big one.
This is a big one.
And it's all over the place in terms of what unusual solutions.
They call it FOMO, fear of missing out. Is that right? Yeah, fear of missing out.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, okay. So unusual solutions would be, for example, well, if I just, let's see.
I can think of one. Like I've heard I bought a new piece of equipment because, our income is down and this is gonna take us to the next level.
Yeah.
And yet there's no real math problem behind that new piece of equipment. Nobody's trained to use it. And it turns out nobody wants it.
Yeah, like
the service doesn't
plus
fit.
If there's already a lack of patience coming in, do you think that all of a sudden they're just going to run to this new machine and hand over money?
No,
probably not. So,
and that's really considered in our world. When you buy a new piece of equipment for a new service, that's what we call expansion.
Yes,
it's not called fix a cash flow problem.
Oh, for sure.
Problem.
Yeah, that is 100% for sure.
So it's a wrong solution.
Yeah.
Right. For that particular problem.
Or start or start into this other area, another location, even though my current location is not even near its capacity level.
Or just start another business.
Yeah. Or start another business.
I'm going to do an Amazon business just to bring in some more money to the household. And
yep. These are all unusual solutions to cash flow problems. Whereas, you just look in the organization and say, okay, who's supposed to be doing what?
Yeah.
Right? Do they have the right mission, vision, purpose? Does everyone know what they're supposed to do? They know those are usual solutions.
Right.
Like those are things that you would go in. Unusual solutions would be like how much can I go borrow from so-and-so to cover this? So, stop looking for unusual solutions to solve cash flow problems because they very rarely ever help.
Usually you can find the problem. And it's usually some bad habit that you have.
Yeah, it usually is, isn't it? It's probably one of these first three.
It's probably one of the first three.
That's happening right now that you don't have the kind of cash flow that you have. So,
that's pretty funny.
But look, all these bad habits that you have, they do add up to a loss of money, a loss of revenue. Potentially you having to take on more debt, not having good relations with your spouse or your staff. There's nothing good that comes from any of these bad habits, as you can see. No. So just make sure you're doing something proactive in terms of switching that from a bad habit to a good habit. Speaking of good habits.
Yeah, let's talk about good
things. We do have some good habits.
Yeah.
Here. So these are good habits that we've seen from the top practice owners out there. And there's a lot of them, but we're only going to go over 4 of them just because of time constraints. But certainly a good habit that the best owners have is that they do look at their finances on a regular basis.
Yeah. They have a scheduled time that they look at that.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I've seen is, they actually plan on when they're going to look at their finances. And then they usually do it not just by themselves, either with their executive team, right? Or with their family.
For sure. So they and that kind of goes into the third one, which is they do have a plan.
Yes.
For how they handle their finances and their business. And then, because, we get a lot of people say, I just don't have time for this.
I think it's one of the biggest complaints of business owners is time.
Yeah, they're
right?
like, I don't
have time.
I don't have time to implement this plan. Therefore, I'm not going to buy this because I know that I won't have time to do it.
Yeah.
When it's actually the other way around. The reason that you don't have any time is because you're not doing any planning.
That's right. I'm overwhelmed. I'm already doing so many things. Yeah.
And that's why you don't have time.
It's true.
So it's like you can continue to spin the plates where you can just say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to finally have a plan of exactly where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I'm going to dedicate some time to it. And by doing that, it's actually going to create more time for me.
Absolutely.
And it's not easy. It sucks in the beginning. I'm sure it does probably take more time than what you would like to think.
Yeah.
But there is a result of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I think most people miss when it comes to planning and actually implementing that plan is, yes, it might take a little bit of time to make that strategic plan, put it in place, and then actually implement. But there's a statistic out there that for 30 hours of time that you actually spend planning and implementing something that creates more time, the time that it creates is compounded forever.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool because you don't have to go back and start at the beginning.
So that 4 or 5 hours that I invested then is actually going to create a scenario where I have hundreds of hours.
Yeah. And so, and that is the reality that is so hard to grasp. I know, in the moment where literally you have 25 different people pulling at you, and you feel like you don't have time, but you don't have time to not have time.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're losing the compounding.
That's correct.
And that is the real rub, I think, on that cool excuse, but we know when we see someone actually applying this, they have a ton of time. Literally have a ton of time.
They have a ton of time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So make sure you have a plan, or if you don't have a plan, and have a plan for your business and plan for your household, because you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And just dedicate towards it. And you will get more time.
Yeah. The habit is to go ahead and create that plan, but then stick to it.
Yes.
And hold yourself accountable, or hire somebody to hold you accountable, so that you don't fall off the wagon.
That's right.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, what's another one?
Okay, another good habit that the best owners have that we've seen is that when it comes to investing, or how they manage money, so to speak, they have the mindset of a banker and a gambler. Ooh. Okay, and I'll explain what I mean by that.
Oh, I kind of like this already.
So when you start talking about how people usually, when money comes in, a lot of people will automatically think that they need to try to find, the 10, 12, 20, 30% returns on that money. Got to get my money. Got to get my money making money for me.
Yes.
Okay. Uh-huh. And what I found is that the best owners don't think like that. What they do is when money comes in, they are extremely conservative with that money. Okay. And when I say that, meaning that they have it kind of stack, it's
okay to just kind of accumulate.
They accumulate a significant amount of money. Okay. But when they see an opportunity that they know is something that is in alignment with things that they already know, or they have some semblance of control, they don't mess around. They act. They will shove it all in towards that.
That sounds risky.
Yeah.
But you said something that they know, right?
Something that they know, they understand, and they have
in alignment with,
and they have some control over the outcome, right?
That's huge. I mean, that's where it's kind of like a calculated risk.
It is. It's certainly. I mean, they know they have to take a risk, because you just can't have money just sitting in a bank account accumulating for too long. No. But they know when to deploy it, and when that opportunity comes, then they jump on it.
They're patient.
They are patient to that degree, but they are impatient when they get the money deployed.
Yeah.
And they're impatient about money coming in.
Yeah.
Like, they want money coming in, but then they control it very, very well.
Yeah.
But they don't just money doesn't come in and then just goes out the next day. They know how to control it. That's why I say they invest like bankers, because bankers just what bankers do.
Yeah.
But it's just more of a mindset of a banker.
No, I like it.
And I think that's a really key habit that you can have, is like, it's okay if money comes in, let's stack some money, but when we do find something or have a strategy, let's not just stack a bunch of cash and not do anything with it.
Yeah.
Let's actually put it in motion somewhere.
You said this somewhere before. You said something along these lines, and I'm paraphrasing, but that financial beasts, which is kind of what we're talking about, they are impatient with collections and patient with spending.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it's similar, right? When it comes to investing, it's a similar mindset, but that is really the beast knows when to take action.
That's right.
And when to sit back and kind of hold their cards.
Yeah, like they're voracious about the production of their practice. Like, I'm not impatient with money not coming in, but they're patient when it comes to outlaying money, because they know the value of exchange, and they want to make sure they're getting plenty of exchange back for that money.
That's awesome.
Okay, the last habit is we've talked about this one before, is just making sure that the best owners pay themselves correctly. When I say that, it's not just they're taking a paycheck to cover their basic household expenses. They pay themselves as owners. They pay themselves as executives. They know how to compensate themselves for the risks that they took in the business. And I think that's a great habit that you can put in play, because if you do that, then you're going to have money to invest. You're going to have money for discretionary income. You're going to have money to pay for whatever lifestyle that you have. So structuring how you pay yourself and making that a habit is it is so key. Yeah. For, again, accelerating the financial independence time frame. Yeah, absolutely. And I think where, I kind of argue that that's something you can automate. But it is truly a habit because you can unautomate it, and so I think what we've seen is that if you're committed to the goal and to putting this habit in place, then you're not going to ever let that go, right? So you get the result. Rainy day comes, you don't go, well, let's just stop that for a little while and then we'll pick it back up, which if it's anything like exercise or anything else habitual, you're doing really good and then whoop, and then getting back started is rough. So sometimes it can be.
Don't stop the good habits.
Yes.
Make sure you're on track and that nothing will let you, fall off that wagon for good habits, especially that one, because it's a big one.
That is a good one.
And really, like, the other theme on good habits is if you have these good habits, they do compound.
They do.
And the result is far beyond what you could have imagined, because we've seen it happen in a compounding situation where it literally has a life of its own once you just keep things in motion.
Yes.
And so, I guess the alternative also happens. Bad habits can send you way down and almost into financial ruin. For sure. If you keep those going as well. So,
I'm looking at this list. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars of losses that can occur on the bad habits, but on the flip side, hundreds of millions of dollars of gains.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the good habits that you could get. So if you can eliminate those bad habits and really get the good habits in place, like really good, like what I'm talking about, really constructive habits, impactful habits, not like I get up every day and I do my, whatever.
Jazzercise?
And I tell myself I'm going to be rich. That's my habit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. But like, you got to do something else. Like, you have to do something meaningful that's actually going to move the needle on this stuff.
Yeah.
So make sure you get these good habits in place. Okay. That was good.
That's awesome. And like that is, this is just a handful of financial habits for, what we would consider a financial beast or someone in beast mode. And there's so many more.
Yes.
So, and you know what? You don't have to do them all at once.
Well, we'll do a part 2 on this one.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's other costly habits that they have. But I think that's a good start. So
I love it. Well, thank you for joining us for the Financial Beast podcast. This has been awesome, Eric.
This was definitely good. So you guys, please spread the message on this. Like, subscribe, share, whatever you do. If you know other practice owners who desperately need financial help, that are in the same condition or in some other condition that you're in, that need a helping hand, we definitely want to make sure that we get this information out to them as fast as we possibly can. And we will come back next week with another incredible podcast. I'm sure, I don't know what's going to be on yet, but I'm sure it'll be pretty awesome.
You never know. It is going to be awesome, though, for sure. That's a guarantee.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Take care. Bye-bye. You have been listening to the Financial Beast podcast, where we talk about how to turn practice profits into personal financial wealth. For more information on how to become a financial beast and practice ownership, visit financialbeastpodcast.com. You may also want to call the office at 727-588-1540 to request more information on becoming a client or arrange to have Eric speak at your next event. That's 727-588-1540 or financialbeastpodcast.com.